Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom nestled between rolling hills and sparkling rivers, there lived a beautiful princess who had a peculiar problem. No matter how hard she tried, she just couldn't sleep at night. Every night when the moon replaced the sun and the stars twinkled in the velvet sky, the princess would toss and turn in her silken sheets, her mind racing like a wild horse that had broken free from its reins. Her nights were filled with anxious thoughts, her days with fatigue. She consulted wise healers and followed their remedies, yet nothing brought her sweet dreams and peaceful slumber. The princess was desperate. She couldn't understand why she was cursed with this condition. Why did she have to suffer when others could sleep soundly? Her nights were long and lonely, and the silence of her room echoed with her unshed tears. One night, unable to bear her restlessness any longer, the princess decided to break her royal confinement. She slipped out of her room, careful not to wake the sleeping king, her father, and ventured into the moonlit gardens. As she strolled along the moonlit paths, the cool night air calming her agitated nerves, she noticed a small cottage bathed in the soft glow of the moon. Curiosity piqued, she walked towards it. As she drew closer, she heard the sound of gentle snores. The princess, surprised to find someone asleep during the night, cautiously approached the cottage. Peeking through a window, she saw an old woman fast asleep, her chest rising and falling rhythmically. The princess, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and fascination, couldn't resist the urge to know more. She knocked on the door. The old woman stirred, then slowly opened the door. Seeing a beautiful princess standing before her, the old woman was taken aback. "My dear princess," she asked, her voice raspy with sleep, "what brings you here at this hour?" The princess, her voice trembling slightly, explained her insomnia, the sleepless nights and the torment it had caused her. The old woman, her gaze filled with understanding, invited the princess inside. The cottage was small but cozy. A fire crackled merrily in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The old woman, after making sure the fire was safe, sat down and beckoned for the princess to do the same. "You have suffered enough," the old woman said, her voice gentle yet firm. "And now it is time for you to learn a valuable lesson." The princess, confused, looked at the old woman questioningly. "What lesson?" she whispered. The old woman smiled knowingly. "The lesson of contentment," she said. "See, my dear princess, we often desire what we don't have. You wish to be like the flowers that are at peace, or so you think. But have you ever stopped to consider their lives? Do they not also have their worries? The flower that wilts, the rose that withers, the vine that cannot climb?" The princess pondered the old woman's words. Had she been so focused on her own troubles that she failed to see the struggles of others? The old woman continued, "Each living thing has its challenges, its moments of pain and quiet desperation. Even the moon, which you so admire from your window, does it not also cast its shadows? Each of us carries a burden, a silent sorrow that we must endure." The princess looked down at her hands. She had never thought of the moon as anything other than a source of light in the darkness. To her it had always seemed serene and untroubled. Now she saw it as a reminder that even in the heavens, perfection was an illusion. The old woman, her eyes twinkling, said, "There is no creature in this world without worry, without pain. Each has its share of sorrow, its own burden to bear. It is part of the cycle of life. To be alive is to feel, to experience the full spectrum of emotions, both the joys and the sorrows. To ignore or deny the sorrows would be to deny one's humanity, one's connection to all living things." The princess, her mind reeling from these profound words, felt a new understanding dawning on her. She realized that her sleepless nights were just one thread in the tapestry of life, a single note in the symphony of existence. There was beauty in the completeness of life, in its wholeness. It was not meant to be perfect. It was meant to be lived. The old woman, sensing the shift in the princess's demeanor, smiled. "Do you understand now, my child?" she asked softly. The princess, her eyes shining with newfound wisdom, nodded slowly. The old woman continued, "So I say to you, do not envy the inanimate objects, the flowers, the trees, or even the moon. Their tranquility is not an escape from sorrow, but rather a form of acceptance. They have found peace in their imperfections, in their struggles. just as you must find peace in yours." The princess, deeply moved by the old woman's words, felt a sense of calm wash over her. She understood that the old woman was right. Her sleepless nights were not a curse, but an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to accept the fullness of life. The princess thanked the old woman for her wisdom and for showing her the true meaning of contentment. With a newfound lightness in her step, she returned to the palace. From that day forward, the princess no longer wished to be like the flowers or the moon. She embraced her sleepless nights, finding solace in the quiet hours. She began to use her time wisely, reading books, learning new skills, and spending time with her people, bringing them joy and comfort. The princess also started spending more time with her father, the king, sharing stories and laughter. Realized that true happiness lay not in escaping her problems, but in facing them with courage and grace. The memory of the old woman's words echoed in her heart, reminding her that each night was a new opportunity to find beauty in the imperfections of life. And so the princess, who couldn't sleep, became known throughout the land not for her insomnia, but for her wisdom, her kindness, and her ability to find joy in the simplest of things. The people loved her for her sincerity and the depth of her character. And the king, seeing his daughter bloom into a wise and compassionate young woman, couldn't have been prouder. One evening, many years later, as the king sat in his throne room, a visitor arrived. An old woman with a kind face and twinkling eyes. The king, recognizing her instantly, stood up and welcomed her warmly. It was the old woman from the cottage. "You have aged, your majesty," the old woman said with a smile, "but your eyes still hold the wisdom of the ages." The king laughed heartily. "And you, wise woman, still possess the gift of seeing through the facades of this world." They sat down and began chatting about the kingdom and its people. The old woman was pleased to see that the princess had become a beacon of light for her people, a symbol of hope and strength. "You have done well, princess," the old woman said, her eyes twinkling. The king nodded proudly. "It was your words that set her on the right path. We both owe you a debt of gratitude." The old woman waved her hand dismissively. "It was no more than a guiding hand, your majesty. The credit goes to the princess. She was the one who chose to walk that path." As the evening deepened and it was time for the old woman to leave, the king accompanied her to the door. "May your wisdom continue to guide us all, wise woman," he said. The old woman turned around, and with a mischievous twinkle in her eye, she said, "Who knows? Your majesty, perhaps I, too, learned something from the princess. After all, it was she who taught me that even in the stillness of the night, life can be beautiful." And with that, she disappeared into the twilight, leaving the king and the princess to cherish the wisdom they had gained from each other. In the quiet of the night, the king, his heart filled with gratitude, went back to his throne room. He thought of the princess, now a wise and beloved queen, and smiled. His daughter had not only found her place in the world, but had also touched the hearts of everyone around her. And he knew that her story would be told for generations to come. The moral of this story: sometimes our biggest problems can teach us the most valuable lessons. The princess's insomnia, which tormented her for so long, ultimately led her to wisdom, acceptance, and a deeper understanding of life. It was her sleepless nights that gave her the time to grow, to learn, and to connect with her people. So instead of wishing to be like the flowers or the moon, she learned to appreciate the beauty in her own struggles, embracing the imperfections that made her who she was.